This demonstration is recorded in the context of the 2019 Gartner BI Bake-Off. In the next 20 minutes, you'll see innovation around dashboard design, data preparation, insights sharing, data management and governance. And at the end of the video, you'll also see some great innovation showcasing augmented analytics in the context of Slack and mobile.
So here is a presentation format of my DV dashboard about loneliness dataset. Here's a bar chart showing a frequency of individuals by age groupings. I can easily change the type of chart on the fly and change it to a tree map, for instance. The top left trellis bar chart is indicating by country for people who feel lonely, are they happy? I can sort and resort this on the fly by different criteria. And I can see that in UK, for instance, there are people who feel lonely and yet still feel happy. And when I select that group, I can see that it dynamically highlights on the other charts. Similarly, if I look at the distribution by gender, when I click on the bar, it highlights on the other charts as well. I have a right-click menu that allows me to keep, remove selecting, drill, take custom actions, or do several actions directly on the fly. I can filter a single view on the dashboard, so the filter here is only implicating this view. Or I can filter at the dashboard level and reduce the whole page just for a single value like married people, for instance. And another way for me to filter on the dashboard is to use a viz as a filter. So now as I click on the pie chart here, the whole dashboard gets filtered only for a population of senior people who participated or a younger group. So it's a very interactive way for me to visually analyze and compare different groups. Let's go to another dashboard here that is a correlation matrix dashboard. Colors indicate how well characteristics correlate. So we can see that general happiness is positively correlated with being happy with family, negatively correlates with feeling lonely, and interestingly, negatively correlates with usage of social media. So that is interesting. Let me toggle to edit mode here and let me drill a little further. This matrix is showing me this at the individual level. What if we aggregated this at the age level to see if the correlation persists? So I'm just going to drag the age object in the detail column, and yes, these correlations remain. So let me visualize this in a different way. I'm removing all these columns here and let me select scatter plot. Each dot here is an age, x-axis is loneliness, and y-axis indicates happiness. It's pretty visible that we have a negative correlation here, so let's add a trend line to confirm. Here's a trend line. Let's make this be polynomial trend line and we have a better fit. And let's now see if this correlation is consistent across age groups, for instance, between younger people and elderly people. Let me drag that object in the canvas. Let me remove that selected outlier. And here's the chart. Let me make this a little bigger. So it's visible here that the two lines have a different shape and the correlation is different for 65 and plus, the 18 to 64. So it seems like senior people can deal with loneliness better than younger people. So now let's move on to how exactly these dashboards were built. Here's a blank canvas, and on the left we can see the data set. KFF loneliness is the one we were using. So I'm going to search for the objects I need here. So the age grouping is the first one. I double click on it and it creates a visualization automatically. I double click on weighted count and the visualization updates automatically. As I click on the loneliness level, the bar chart updates as well. And let me change this to a tree map, for instance. And here we go. We're very close to be done with the first viz. Let's change the label options, show the percentage, and show the percentage of the section. So for each age group, we see the correct percentage. Our first visualization is completed. Let's move on to the second one. Let me select general happiness, loneliness, and weighted, and let's pick a specific visualization, a bar chart here, and we're going to make this become a trellis by country. So I've dragged it so it looks better here, and now let me drag the country as a trellis column, and let's filter out the values that are non-representative. So I can have a filter at the viz level. I will remove some values, decline to answer, and not sure. And I will also do the same for the level of loneliness. And we're done with the second viz. Let's give it a specific title as well, a readable title. By default, the interactiveness was built in automatically. As I click on a member here, they highlight on the other charts on the page. So this didn't require any configuration. Now let me add a third visualization here, just a tile as a counter of the audience that we're looking at. Let me drag the objects on the canvas so that they look better. And let's now add a filter here. So let's pick a geographical filter about some area here. All I have to do is find the column and drag it into the filter place. And I can directly filter for different member values and see the dashboard, the whole dashboard updating. All right, so we're done with the first dashboard. We could now post it and share it with a large audience. We'll see this later in the movie. Now let's go and build a calculation between two metrics now. Let's use the consumer value data set here. So let's represent these values first. So this is the average feeling about one's personal life this year broken down by age. So let me make this be a line and let me expand it so we see it better. Let's add the other variable into this, which is the average feeling about the personal life next year. So we can see that the two lines are different. So we're going to calculate a custom calculation, which will show the variance between these two matrices. So all I have to type is one piece of the object I want, and it will auto-suggest me the column. And all I have to do is click. And here's a difference formula, but I could have used any other sophisticated help and formulas in the system. Let me save that. And let's look for the object that we just created, year-to-year variation, and drag it in the chart. And here's the difference. Let's make this be a bar chart. And then let's change this y-axis to be a secondary y-axis. And here we go. Our visualization is ready with a custom calculation. Let me collapse this, and the dashboard with the calculation is ready. So now let's move on to a more proactive and automatic way of finding drivers of loneliness. So let me select the loneliness column here, and let me invoke explain feature. Explain will run several ML algorithms on this data and provide with various advanced insight. So how often do you feel lonely is an attribute with 7 values, and this is how they split in the population of this data. So I'm interested with this chart to start with. And then I can see the breakdown of how people feel lonely and how it correlates with happiness, with financial, for instance. It does not seem to correlate well with talking often to family. So I'm marking all these charts because I find them interesting. And it does not seem to correlate well with the usage of social media or the time spent on social media. These are all interesting charts. I would like to add them to my dashboard. All I did is add select. And here's the dashboard that built automatically out of explain. Now, I could change some of this chart and make this be a country breakdown and use it as a filter. In seconds, I have this beautiful dashboard that allows me to click on a country and see the correlations per country, that how they differ per country, and derive very interesting insight, which is pretty interesting. Let's move on to data preparation now. And let's click on the Prepare tab, and let's visit the data diagram to see that currently we have two data sets in our project. One is the KFF data, and the other one is the consumer value from Gartner. We are going to add a list of value data set out of the Excel spreadsheet showing the country names to start with. So we select the file, country lookup, and we simply click on add to create it as a data set. As we do this, it should have normally automatically discovered the columns to make a join. Here we go, it did. There is this join that got created on the column named S1, which is of a similar type and name. So it figured out that it could join them. I can go, and in my data sets, I will see that I have two files that are joined together. So if I click on country name and I double click on respondent ID, here we go, 19,000, which is indeed the number of respondents that we have in the file. Let's briefly make another visualization like a map, and we can see that it recognized the country names, and here's the map that is interactive. Now let's go on and visit another way of extending the data with the second list of value file. I go in the Prepare tab here, and as I click on the responder employment, the system automatically suggests me an enrichment with the value, the description value of that code. So if I click on it, it will show me an example, and I can accept this. And as I accept, I am enriching my data set with this value from the list of value. So ahead of this demo, the administrator of my system had uploaded that list of value in the dictionary of enrichment. So the system could automatically recognize and suggest an enrichment to this column. And now as I'm building visualization, you can see that the description is available. Obviously, the number of individuals is the same. Let me move on and run a few basics data preparation steps. So let me use the consumer value data set and let's look at it under metadata form. So we see all the columns here, their types and a few sample of their value. And we have a choice of different transformations we can apply. In this case, we want to replace the value of gender 1 by male, and then we want to obviously replace the value of gender 2 by female. So we have pre-built wizards here and UIs to make several of these transformations, and let's apply the script so that this gets pushed to the data set. We also want to group the age in age groups. So we want to start by millennials, and that is grouping several values under 40 years old. So I'm selecting all of these, and then you can see on the right, the bin is building. Then let's add another group, Generation X. And again, this is going to be from 40 to 60. And then the last bin will be everything above 60. So let's create a last group called seniors and add all. We have a visual representation of the distribution here for the ages, add the step, and we're done. So now let's use these new columns and show that we can create custom join between data sets. Let's join the consumer values with the loneliness data set. So for this, we're going to add manual matches. And the first one is going to be the responder age with the age here, the age column in the loneliness data set. So here's the age column. And the second one is going to be the gender that we just transformed. So here's our gender, which is male and female. And in the loneliness data set, there's a gender column that also has male and female. That's why we did the replacement. And here is our join. It is created, and it joins these two columns. Let's now share our content by creating a dashboard that other users can consume. Let's call it a loneliness analysis. We just give it a name. And let's fill it up with the project that we just saved. So I saved this under loneliness analysis. Here is my project. I drag it and we're done. I save it and I run this dashboard. Now this dashboard can be viewed securely by anyone with a URL. I can interact with it, and all the interactiveness that we've built into the page initially remains. So the prompt works, selection works here, and the interactiveness works. The select, keep select, remove select, the drilling, as well as the prompting from other visualizations. Now, let's schedule this. Creating an agent will allow us to schedule it with a level of priority, with a pretty granular schedule, weekly, monthly, daily, and with a frequency within that schedule. It will let us also add a condition. So let's add a condition about risky behavior people. So let's create this. We'll base it on an analysis that lists the people that have a risky behavior. So that's could be a complex analysis. It's just returning rows. And if the number of rows is higher than 0, then the condition is fulfilled. In this case, the test is positive. So this is going to be a condition for our agent. And then we'll give it some messages for the analysis. In our case, we want to deliver that dashboard page that we just created. Let's browse through it. It's that loneliness overview dashboard, and it's page 1. We just had one page. We want it under the PDF format, HTML, or we want the entire dashboard delivered on email. And the recipients could be people who subscribe to it. I can have different destinations, and I can even have this create an action, some action in some operational system. So let me save this and run it. The agent will run, and if the condition is met, it will deliver some content. So in this case, the condition is met, so it delivers some content, and we see at the top that the alert button just appeared, and it's giving me in my own page, on my email, on my pager, I can see the message, the alert, and the content. So the project that we have built right there in DV could have started by being shared with others with permissioning enabled. So who can edit, who can view, who can read, write, and read only, and so on. And similarly, the data set that we have created, the data sets that we have created have the same inspect capability where we can permission and let people see, access, read, and or change. In addition, an administrator could have certified the dataset to signify to the users this dataset was the clean one certified for enterprise usage. Or the model that we have built in our project could have been promoted as part of this enterprise semantic layer, which we call subject areas. So here you see a subject area that has been built by IT based on our project, and we can see the same datasets, the same objects, and the same results. So for a change, let me demonstrate security using the ask interface. Show me weighted count by country and gender. And as we can see, we get only results for the US here in this case because the administrator of the system has set some row level security in the metadata, which constrains my own user to only see US data.
So now let's take a look at a few cool features in OAC. Right from the home page, a user can get answers to questions using search and natural language. So if I want to see the score for happiness by generation, I would just start typing. You can see that using synonyms, the system was able to recommend weighted count when I typed score, and it will continue to assist me until I complete my question. That's all great, but wouldn't it be much easier if I could just speak or ask the question out loud? What was the score for overall loneliness in Japan by salary? Just like that, the system was able to hear my question and parse the sentence to come up with a meaningful result. It identified score as weighted count. It was able to map overall loneliness to the question, how often do you feel lonely? It found that salary was a synonym of income level. And finally, it filtered the whole result for the country of Japan. Not only does Oracle Analytics understand natural language, it can generate it as well. We can summarize the meaningful information of any visualization in plain English and other languages. All this becomes particularly useful in the context of a modern collaboration tool like Slack. Here, we can just type the question like you did in OAC, and the system will first check for typos and then send it off to OAC's natural language processing engine. When it's done, OAC will return the raw data as well as a plain English summary of the answer and a detailed visualization for you. Last but not least, we have OAC's mobile app called Day by Day. When you launch Day by Day, it takes you to the Smart Feed, which is a set of analytics that the system has determined is appropriate for you based on your schedule, location, and priority. And of course, you can ask a question. What is the happiness score by country? Just like that, OAC will prepare a set of visualizations for me. And if I'm interested, I can swipe on any chart and add it to my calendar so I see it every week. Because OAC sits on top of the Oracle platform, you can ask questions in 26 languages. Quel est le niveau de satisfaction personnelle par tranche salariale au Japon? Despite the data being in English, OAC is able to relate my French question to the English dataset and even filter it for Japan. Finally, I'd like to see this every time I'm in Japan, so I swipe on the visualization and let the system know that this is important to me when I'm in Japan.